Now let's look at the examples they used in a previous exam. If you want to go and consult the whole question paper, it is November 2010, paper 2. Question 5, there it is. In the question paper, they explained what was CPI, but I am sure all of you will know now what is CPI. But if you don't, just read it again. The Consumer Price Index is the price of a collection or a basket. Remember now what the basket refers to, of goods and services. And the prices of these goods and services are collected every month. And the total cost of a basket is compared to that of the previous month's total. And remember, over a period of a year, they find the average or the mean, and that gives us our annual inflation rate. The CPI is the official measure of inflation. Don't confuse the two. Inflation rate is the percentage one, but CPI is the Consumer Price Index. It's a long word, so remember it's a long number. It will always be 100 or more. Inflation is generally given as a percentage and the measure of how much the price of goods and services have increased over a period of time. In 2008, the Statistics South Africa, remember I said if you want to know more you can always Google their website, decided that a fruit basket should consist of bananas, apples, oranges, lemons, since these types of fruit are generally available throughout the year. So can you remember previously I told you there's a CPIF where it only works with food. Now in this instance they only work with fruit and not food. The graph drawn on an annexure F, I will show that to you now, shows the month-on-month changes in the CPI from January to December as expressed as a percentage. Remember, then it is the inflation rate. Now it says, use the graph drawn on the annexure to follow the question, answer the following questions. Now I just want to highlight the words, and if you can, just jot the keyword down, because I'm going to go to the graph and then you're going to forget what the questions ask. So let's look at the keyword, and if possible, write them down for me. The first one says, name the consecutive months between which there was no change. Okay, so that's the key word. I want you to write down no change. So we're going to look at the graph where there's no change. Then number B said, which months was the CPI less? So there's the key word. Where was the CPI less than that of the previous month? So the first one was no change. The second one was less. Now let's look at the third one. Name the consecutive months between which the increase in the CPI was the greatest. So what is the key word here? The greatest. For those who are not sure, the word consecutive means the one after the other. So it will not be January, May, December. Consecutive means January, February, March, one after the other in a certain order. That is just some terminology because it often appears in papers. Right, so let's quickly look at our keywords. No change, less than the previous, increase was the greatest. Now I'm going to show you the graph. Let us look at the graph. It is a very interesting graph. Now, let's look what it's about. Month-on-month changes in the CPI of a fruit basket. If we go to our x-axis, it shows us the month. And remember when they spoke of consecutive months, January, February, March, none of them are omitted. Then also, what is our y-axis is the percentage change, or what we refer to as the inflation. They've plotted the points, and there you can see a lot of changes in that. But what did the question ask? remember I said some time ago, a question only has two parts. What do they give? What do they ask? In this instance, they gave us the graph. What was the first thing that they asked? Where was there no change? And if I look on this graph, between those 2 points, can you see that there is not a slope increasing and there is not a slope decreasing? So when a slope is constant, it means there is no change. But the question asks which months. So now I take my ruler and I go all the way down and I see it is between July and August. Remember what the question said? Consecutive months. It means 2 months after each other. And August is after July. Right, now we go to the second question. And the second question said, where was the CPI less than the previous month? Oh, if it's less than the previous month, then it must be somewhere where there is an increase. Because if the one was less than the other, the next one will be more. So now I go look, where is there an increase? Now from February to March, the graph increases. If I look from March to April, what does it say? It also increases. And from May to June, it also increases. And from June to July, it also increases. And there it was the same, there it decreased. And from September to October, it also increased. And from October to November, it also increased. So you are lucky, because this question has about 6 possible answers. You could have mentioned any one of them. The secret was, I cannot say from February to April. Why? Because the question stipulated consecutive months. So it must be either from February to March or March to April, or any of the other relevant. Right, the last question on that section said, where was the increase the greatest? Remember, for an increase to be great, it means the slope is very steep. And if you look at these graphs, there was a slight increase. There was a big increase. There was a fairly average increases. There was a small increase. And there was a big increase. So if I look at the graph, there are 2 possible increases. But for me to make sure which one it is, you will have to go and calculate them. And you can see the first one is from minus 1,8 to another value is 3.9. And if I get the difference between that one, it gives you 5,7%. Now I have to test this one, and it's from 0 to 5,8. And if I subtract it, it gives you 5,3. So which one is the greatest? The one that is from 1,8 to 3,9. Right. So the one that gives you the biggest increase then will then show you which one was the steepest slope. Now I want to go back to the questions. So the steepest one, sorry, there's a mistake. It was then from October and November. Now the next question, if I look at question 5.1.2, determine the percentage change from April to May. So let's go to the graph. The percentage change from April to May. How much was it in April? It was 3,9. How much was it in May? Minus 4,1. Because all the units are already in percentage, I can just subtract them from each other and say it is minus 4,1 minus 3,9, and that gives me an average of minus 8. Once again, remember what I said. If the increase is a negative or the decrease is a negative or your inflation rate is a negative, it shows you that there was a decrease. Right, the last question on this section. Calculate the price of the fruit basket in May 2008 if it cost 150 in April 2008. Now remember, what did we see? There was a decrease. So now it means that that price must actually come down. So let us quickly calculate that value of the new price. Let us start. The first one. The price of the basket was 150 Rand. Our inflation rate we saw was now minus 8%. So immediately the minus shows me that that price must decrease. So how do I calculate it? There are two ways again. I can already say it's the 100% the original price was minus the 8%, which gives you, it is now only 92% of the value. So then 92% of the 150 Rand, and if I calculate that, remember it's percentage, 92 divide by 100 multiply by the 150 Rand of the price. And now the current value of that basket is 138 Rand. How do I check it? Remember, what did the question ask? It asked, now what will the new value be if the price of the basket was 150 Rand and the inflation rate has a negative? So the price must then decrease. And that's how you check if your answers are correct. Right. Now